In the early hours of August 8, 1963, a Royal Mail train was travelling from Glasgow to London. Near Bridego Bridge, close to Ledburn in Buckinghamshire, a gang carried out one of the most famous robberies in British history. This was the Great Train Robbery. The gang had planned carefully. They had inside information about the train and the money it was carrying. They knew that the train would be transporting a huge amount of used banknotes. To stop it, the robbers tampered with the railway signal. The driver, Jack Mills, stopped the train when he saw the signal change. Then the gang moved in. They overpowered the train crew and separated the part of the train carrying the money. The cash was unloaded into waiting vehicles near Bridego Bridge. The amount stolen was about £2.6 million, an enormous sum at the time. The robbery shocked Britain. It was bold, organized, and almost cinematic. The criminals had not robbed a small station or a local train. They had attacked a Royal Mail train and stolen a fortune. But the plan had weaknesses. The gang hid at a farmhouse called Leatherslade Farm after the robbery. Police later found the hideout, and evidence there helped identify members of the gang. Fingerprints, objects, and mistakes made after the robbery began to undo the careful planning. Many gang members were captured and sentenced to long prison terms. But the legend kept growing. Names like Bruce Reynolds, Buster Edwards, Gordon Goody, and Ronnie Biggs became tied forever to the robbery. Ronnie Biggs became especially famous after escaping prison and spending years abroad. The Great Train Robbery became more than a crime story. It became a cultural event discussed in books, films, documentaries, and newspapers for decades. But behind the legend was real harm. Train driver Jack Mills was badly injured during the robbery, and the attack left a dark mark behind the glamorous retellings. The Great Train Robbery proved that even a carefully planned heist could fall apart after the escape. Stopping the train was hard. Taking the money was harder. But staying free was the hardest part of all. On October 11, 1923, three brothers tried to rob Southern Pacific Train number 13 in the Siskiyou Mountains of Oregon. Their names were Ray, Roy, and Hugh d'Autremont. They believed the train was carrying valuable mail and money. Their plan was to stop the train at Tunnel 13, a remote place where the mountains and the darkness would give them an advantage. But this robbery did not become legendary because it worked. It became legendary because it failed so terribly. The brothers used explosives to try to open the mail car, but the blast was too powerful and set the car on fire. Instead of a clean robbery, the scene became chaos. 4 railway employees were killed during the attempted robbery. The brothers escaped into the mountains, but they left behind a crime scene that shocked the region. There was no big payday, no clean getaway story, no legendary treasure. There was only violence, failure, and a massive investigation. The manhunt lasted years. What made the Tunnel 13 case especially important was the investigation that followed. Authorities used new forensic methods for the time, including analysis connected to evidence left behind. The case became part of the early history of modern criminal investigation in America. Eventually, the d'Autremont brothers were captured. The robbery had failed, but the story became unforgettable because of its consequences. It showed the end of an era when train robbers could disappear easily into the mountains or across state lines. By the 1920s, law enforcement was changing. Communication was improving. Forensic science was growing. Criminals could still run, but the evidence could follow them. The Tunnel 13 robbery was not a heroic outlaw tale. It was a warning. Some robberies become legends because they are clever. This one became a legend because it showed how greed, bad planning, and violence could destroy everything. On September 10, 1904, near Mission, British Columbia, a train robbery helped create one of Canada's most famous outlaw legends. The man at the center of the story was Bill Miner. He was older than many outlaws, experienced, and already known for stagecoach robberies. He had spent years in prison in the United States before moving into Canada under an alias. Miner was not remembered as a wild, careless criminal. He became known as the Gentleman Bandit, a nickname connected to stories about his calm manner and polite behavior during robberies. But he was still a criminal, and in 1904 he targeted the Canadian Pacific Railway. The robbery happened near Mission, east of Vancouver. Miner and his partners stopped the train and searched for valuables. The robbery was not as financially successful as the criminals may have hoped, but historically, it became very important. It is often remembered as British Columbia's first train robbery. That gave it a place in Canadian criminal folklore. Miner's legend grew because of his personality as much as his crimes. Newspapers and later stories painted him as charming, clever, and old-fashioned. The nickname Gentleman Bandit made him sound almost romantic, even though the people facing him on the train experienced real fear. After the 1904 robbery, Miner continued his criminal career. In 1906, he was involved in another Canadian Pacific train robbery near Kamloops. That time, the escape did not last. He was captured, convicted, and sent to prison. But even prison did not end the legend. In 1907, Bill Miner escaped from the British Columbia Penitentiary. That escape added another layer to the story. He was not just a train robber anymore. He was a train robber who could not be held easily. Bill Miner's robberies did not make him the richest outlaw. They made him memorable. And sometimes, in criminal history, being remembered is what creates the legend. On May 15, 1855, one of the most clever train robberies in British history began with a shipment of gold. This was not a robbery with guns, masks, or shouting passengers. It was a robbery built on patience, keys, timing, and deception. Gold bars and coins were being transported from London toward the coast, then onward to Paris. The shipment was locked inside secure boxes and placed in safes. To anyone watching, it looked protected. But a group of men had spent months preparing. Among the key figures were Edward Agar, William Pierce, James Burgess, and William Tester. Some had railway access. Others understood how the gold was moved. Their plan depended on getting copies of the keys and opening the safes without making the robbery obvious. That was the genius of the crime. They did not simply steal the boxes. They opened them during the journey, removed the gold, and replaced it with lead shot so the weight would still feel correct. The boxes were locked again, and the train continued as if nothing had happened. For a while, nobody knew the gold was gone. That delay was the most important part of the plan. If the theft had been discovered immediately, police could have searched stations, trains, and suspects right away. But because the boxes still seemed heavy, the robbery remained hidden until the shipment reached its destination. When the boxes were finally opened, the truth was shocking. The gold had vanished. In its place was lead. The robbery became famous because it was not about force. It was about intelligence. The thieves had beaten the system by understanding it better than the people protecting it. But the legend did not end with a perfect escape. The case later unraveled after betrayal, suspicion, and investigation. The criminals were eventually exposed and punished. Still, the Great Gold Robbery became legendary because of its method. It showed that a train robbery did not always need a stopped train or a gunman on horseback. Sometimes the most dangerous thief was the one with a key. Sometimes the most dangerous thief was the one with a key.